Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. This is pretty cool. We got Kirk calling in from Florida. We got Bob Schaeffler and Chaz from Florida. So this is pretty cool. This is kind of one of the silver linings of this new setup we have here. So thanks Bob and TC for doing this tonight. I was joking with Bob. And anyone that knows Bob really well, he's kind of cryptic. And when he talks about fishing, you kind of ask him, how have you been fishing? You're like, yeah, I've gone out. Well, he's gone out a lot. And I thought this would be great, kind of seeing how Bob ties and see some of Bob's confidence patterns, and really looking forward to it. So thanks again, Bob, for doing this, and thanks again, TC, for helping with the technology setup. And without further ado, Bob, the floor is yours. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. And as we go through this, please feel free to ask questions. I like having a dialogue with you guys. I love talking fishing with you guys. And if you have comments, or you want to question something, or if you want me to slow down and go back and do something, just let me know and we can do that. Or just as we go along, feel free to ask questions. So Matt asked me to start with my setup that I use. And kind of hard to do with the limited amount of focal area we have, but I don't know if you can see this, but this is a way shrunk down example of the setup I fish. It's got a strike indicator, and it's got I usually fish a 2 nymph rig. I like to have an upper nymph. I like fishing 2 nymphs because I think it just catches more fish. I think the fish, this is just my thinking, I think the fish see 2 nymphs are more likely to grab one of them. And the one they almost always grab is this bottom one, which is called the point fly. And on my rig, the point fly is always tungsten. It's always a tungsten bead so that it gets down really fast. This one is usually brass, simply because if I put tungsten down here, I can't have another tungsten here or it'll sink my indicator. So it's the most weight I can get. And when I'm running this rig, I want this to run pretty much like that in the water, vertical. Actually, if I was going down, if the stream is going this way, my preference would actually be for the nymph to hit the fish first, which is very tough to do because typically the current's stronger on the top of the river than on the bottom. So what typically happens is it starts to end up like this, right? But the fact that you have heavier weight helps keep that vertical, which is where I want it. And I want this right off. I want it off the bottom. I don't want it dragging on the bottom. I've heard people say, oh, it should be 1.5 times the depth of the river. It's not the way I run this rig. I want it off the bottom. I want it less than 1x the depth of the river. If it's dragging on the bottom, you're going to catch less fish. What else? The other thing I do a lot is this. I like these indicators. So Lightning Strike makes them. Cabela sells a similar one. It's just a styrofoam ball. It's a 1/2 inch. And the other thing I like about these is it's very much, again, it's like a bobber for a center pinner. If current's going the same way and I want to be straight up and down, and I know, say this is 4 feet, and if I see my indicator pointing this direction, laying on its side, I know my flies are way out here, so I need more weight to get it down, right? So I'm always watching my indicator to see which way it's pointing up, because that tells me where my flies are. Are they floating up high off the bottom, or are they right down near the bottom where I want them? Okay, so far? The other thing, so 2 fly rig, I usually have the minimum I want typically is about 12 inches between these 2 flies. I had to shorten it just so I could show you guys the rig. I'll typically start with like 16 inches between, and then as I go through switching through different point flies, this will shorten up. Once it gets to about 12, 11 inches, I'll tie in another 16-inch section just to keep them further apart. But I catch the vast majority of my fish on this fly. Sometimes I catch them on this fly, and like this rig here, this could be the rig I use for the Hendrickson hatch, right? It's got a hare's ear that's about the right size, and it's got a smaller hare's ear. So one of the things you can do is I can have 2 different sizes, and if I see the fish hitting the smaller size up top, that tells me, well, I got to put a smaller size down below. I'm going to catch even more fish, right? they're going after that smaller fly. The other thing is sometimes for some reason, some reason they're looking up and they're going after flies that are up off the bottom a little bit. So I'll lower my indicator so that it's pulled up off the bottom, so that the both flies are pulled up, right? Because you're going to get the most hits on this point fly. Okay. Trying to think any other one. Just a couple of things I see beginners do when I cast this out. I typically do a roll cast. You can also do an overhead cast too, but if I do a roll cast, I'm putting this indicator right in the path where I think the fish is going to be. And sometimes I've seen beginners, they do that and the rod's pointing like this when they're done with the cast, and then they pick their rod tip up because they think they're high sticking this. And what they do when they do that is they pull the indicator right away from the fish, right? So when I cast out like that, I'm keeping my rod tip and I'm just following it like that and trying to get a drag-free drift. All right. Questions? You guys know all this?
Dick
As soon as you
Naylor,
see
Bob.
the indicator move, you count to 3 and then set the hook.
You do, Bob. But yeah. Any movement of all of the indicator, any movement at all, I'm setting the hook. It could be bottom. I don't care if I find out it's bottom. Like if I do take a couple of passes through and I'm seeing my indicator move at the same spot every time in the drift, I know I'm hitting bottom, so I'll pull it up a little bit but I'm setting the hook on everything.
Question, Bob. Do you anchor your indicator in any special way so that it doesn't slip up and down on every cast? Or is the anchoring system enough?
So this has a toothpick in it.
Okay.
Right. This is a styrofoam ball with a toothpick.
Yeah.
And especially when it gets wet, the toothpick expands. But this toothpick is not moving. It's staying right there.
So you think that's enough to anchor that in spot? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been using this for 20 years.
Okay.
And it doesn't move. And the good thing about it is it's really easy to change depths.
Mhm.
If I can literally slide it up and down if I want, or I can just take the toothpick out and move it up. I can move it. I can go from 2 feet to 6 feet of depth just by sliding the indicator up in 10 seconds.
Just have to remember when you rig up to put that on first.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Been there, done that.
Yep.
All right. Good so far.
Good. Thanks.
All right.
Bob, Dick
Yeah.
Naylor here. I got a question. Initially, when you start, you're guessing at the depth of the water, I assume.
It's a new stream. Yep.
Yeah, it's what I'm trying to do. So when you guess and you're watching your indicator to decide whether you're not deep enough or you're too deep, and so you adjust from there.
Yes.
But getting back to what you're saying, you don't want your point fly on the bottom.
Don't want a dragon on the bottom. No.
What are you looking at? Maybe trying to guess a foot above, 6 inches above, or
like 6 inches, probably like 6 inches above, typically. Just like the fish are, I think the fish are usually hugging the bottom unless there's a hatch going on.
Yeah.
If there's a hatch going on, they could be anywhere, right? They could be coming up top. They could be getting stuff midstream. They're going after everything then, right? But usually I'm starting with the assumption that the fish are hugging bottom pretty close. So I want to be pretty close to the bottom.
Of course, as you drift downstream, it's maybe you're 4 foot when you start in, you're going down, you're down to 2 feet.
Yep.
So that changes your indicator is going to flop over or do something different. But that doesn't mean.
Yeah, take for example, you got a riffle area that's like 2 feet deep. So I'm going to run I'll run this indicator. I'll run it just like this, right? It could be just literally that deep. It's 2 feet of water. And then let's say it goes into a pool that's 6 feet. I'll fish that I might fish the 2 foot section. I'll probably fish that after if I'm going up, fishing from downstream up. But you can do it the other way too. You can fish the shallower section first and then just move this way up to be a much deeper section like that, right?
So you're pretty much adjusting as you go.
All the time. I'm adjusting all the time. Yep.
All right. Thank you. That answers my question.
Yep. Others? All right. So And I just to give you guys an idea of what Kirk showed his box, so I'm going to show a couple of my boxes. This is just, so this box here is basically just my brass, but you can't zoom in on that. Just kidding.
Yeah, zoom in on there. Take those pictures I was asking you about, TC.
This is
Don't
all
get too
just brass
close here.
beads. There's no tungsten beads. I've got another box just like this. You can see, but actually, when you look at somebody's box, I don't know if you guys, but the first thing I look for are rows like this, where it's just, they're all the same pattern, right? You can tell this is 2 of these, 3 of these, but these are all rows of one pattern. Here's the same pattern. And so here's my hairs here that they're just in brass, 16, 14, and size 12. These are just the flies that I'll use usually on that top fly. And I'm going to have my tungsten hare's ear or some other fly below it on the bottom fly. The only time I'll use 2 brass beads or one of these big brass beads is typically if I'm fishing in really fast, shallow riff water that's maybe a foot or 2 feet deep. I might use these just because tungsten will get hung up in that really shallow water sometimes. And actually, that's the only other time I'll go more than the depth of the indicator. When I'm fishing that really fast, shallow riff water, sometimes I'll lay it out so that it's, it's coming on like this, sort of at an angle, and it's just the nymphs are just bouncing like that. All right. That's just a brass box. And then this is one of my tungsten boxes that I'm still in the process of filling. This is left over from last fall, but I've got 3 of these tungsten boxes. They're just loaded, right? So I fished more tungsten beads than anything. And there's some proprietary ones in here that I'm not going to show you guys, but
Close up.
Can we do a non-disclosure and can we see it a little closer?
Screenshot.
yeah, you can see it. I'm going to go through the ones in this box that
He's going to show the mop fly. I know it.
I'm not showing Kirk's mop fly. No, I never have much luck on that thing, to be honest with you. I don't fish it as much, but
We haven't tried it down here yet.
so that's just to give you an idea of the, and then it's just to give you the idea of how many flies too. This I'm a little bit behind on filling this box, but this is going to be filled with tungsten beads. I've got 3 boxes that are going to be full like this with just lots of hare's ears. And I know many of you guys, I think, are the same way. About middle of April or end of April, these bros are going to be depleted. I'm going to be tying again, right? So, so here we go. This is what we're going to do. So the first fly is a, didn't know about that one. Hare's ear. So there's lots of types of hare's ears. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. This is Joe Curry's. Basically his hare's ear. It's very similar to mine, except it doesn't have the green wing case. And when I say mine, this is really a Ray Grander pattern. Ray Grander used to run pinewood flies in Pine Valley. And he's the one that came up with this pattern. Especially this, the back, which is this green, very shiny wing case. So we're going to go through this one to start. And for that, I am going to use a, actually, one thing I want to show you guys before I get started. So I'm going to use a size 14, 4640 hook. All right. And where are my rip lips beads? 7/64 rip lips tungsten bead. Got that? And I learned a trick. These beads are not the easiest to get on.
Bob, what color bead for this one?
So I'm tying it in silver.
Is that your-
One thing you may, I don't know if you picked up on that, but if you looked at my brass box, these are all gold beads, every single one of them. And my tungsten box, for the most part, is all silver beads, hare's ears. And I don't think it makes a difference. But that's one of the ways I keep them straight. I know if I got a gold bead on, it's probably brass. But I had really good luck with gold for years. So I was sticking with gold. And then I went and heard Devin Olson talk about he really likes silver and he hates gold. So I started playing around with silver. And silver works too. But a very good
Copper
trip.
works too, just FYI.
Copper works too. In fact, Devin says his favorite is copper and then silver and then metallic pink. So I just bought a bunch of copper. Haven't tried them yet. At least not in here. But a really good trick to put these on. These are really a bear to get on. Is you take your bodkin and you put it through the big hole, which is really easy to find, right? Once you have it in the big hole, it's easy to fill it around until you have the small hole lined up where you want it. I don't know if you can see that.
Are those slotted beads?
These are slotted beads.
Slotted beads.
Lift it up a little bit.
Hey,
And then turn it towards me.
you want to come out?
So did you catch that? So use your slotted, use the bodkin, put that up in the big hole. Then you can just spin it around until you have the thing lined up. And now I just dropped the thing. Once you have it lined up, it's easy to put the hook in. So I'm going to take one here because I just dropped that on the floor. So 4640 with a 7/64. So I put that in like that.
Want to be able to watch?
That's good enough.
You want to
And
watch?
the way I like, you can see I've got this slotted down, slanted down a little bit like that. I like to do that so that it keeps this bead down there. Otherwise, this bead can sometimes slide up. So you got to keep an eye on that. You can take a few wraps of thread. And by the way, I'm going to start out here. I'm just going to use, this is 8/0 olive uni. Cool. You could use UTC 70 if you like. I don't like to use the thicker. I don't like to use 6/0 or 140. I think those are a little thick for these types of nymphs. But I'm just going to lay down a thread base. All right. Entire length to the hook. Oop. And clip this off. And then for the tail, I like using this olive hen. It's a hen saddle. Here's a similar one. I've had this for years and it's still going. Here's a similar, this is a brown hen saddle, which would also work, I think, just fine. Can you see that? That way. These things cost, I don't know, 10 bucks, 12 bucks. I don't know what they are now. I haven't bought them in a while. But I'm going to pull off the feather.
Hey, guys. Just want to share, my dad's here with me. Where he wanted to see Bob's secret fly here.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Who's that?
So you can see these, one of the things I like about these feathers is you can see the modeling in there, hopefully. Right, so that's really a good coloration. It's got a nice dark olive color. And I'm just going to pick off about, I don't know, 10 of these fibers. I actually like a pretty good sized tail on these. And so I'm going to hold them perpendicular and just pull them off. I don't want the fuzzy stuff at the bottom, although you can, if you want to use that, you can. And then I've got my tail like this. I'm going to put it where I want it. You guys know the pinch wrap? I don't use the pinch wrap because this takes more time. But if you want to do, if you have a hard time doing this, the pinch wrap is I've got the thread between my two fingers right now, but no tension on the hook. And then I'm going to come around the hook one time, and then I'm going to put tension on it. See, and it locks it in, and the feathers are on top like that. Once you've got them where you want them, I just take a couple of wraps and wrap that down. And I'm just gonna, actually, that's fine.
That's basically brown, even though you're using olive thread, but it's brown hackle.
This is olive hen.
It's
It's actually olive hen.
Looks
I don't know if it
brown.
shows.
On the
Yeah,
screen.
it is kind of, it probably is like a brownish natural color, but it's colored olive.
I
So
got it. Okay, so it's dyed.
I mean, here's
olive
the,
over
here's, I
brown.
don't know if this shows through the package. Does that through? This is brown versus olive.
Right.
A little different.
Huh.
And then I'm going to use pearl tinsel for the ribbing. All right. So is this a fine small? It's a small pearl tinsel. And again, just going to tie that in. And then I'm going to hook this back here so it's a little bit out of the way. And now next comes the dubbing. Couple types of dubbing that I like. there's all sorts of dubbing out there, and this is, I mean, one I really like. I like Joe Okuri's stuff. Joe's come to our club and talked. This is his olive dubbing. If I should pull this on. Right, can you see both of these?
Move them to
Only
your
one. Just
right.
the natural hairs here. Okay, yeah, now that's good.
Yeah, let me switch this view so I see
Oh yeah, you want to. I think you want to take it off mirror.
speaker view. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so now you can see him. There we go, much better.
Yep.
Right, so he sells these in a like he's got his natural blend. He's got extra buggy. His natural is pretty buggy. His extra buggy is ridiculously buggy. It's hard. It's even hard to dub if you're a beginner, I think. So I like these dubs. One of the things I will say is I don't like the really olive color, and I don't like the really gray color. So I like to mix these up, and typically I would take probably like a quarter of that olive and 3/4 of the gray and mix those together, and that'll give me the color that I want. Same with these are another type of dubbing I just came across that I really like, especially for smaller flies, is this stuff by Trout Line, Mad River Plus, I think it's called. And this stuff is really great. It's really good for dubbing smaller flies in particular. You can put it on very thin, and it's got a lot of good sparkle in it. This is good stuff. Same thing. I don't really like I like to mix them. I don't really like the color. I like a mix of the colors, and I will mix those by taking. Did you guys know how to mix dubbings, or should I go through that a little bit?
Show us.
So you can take a little bit like that. No. A little bit more of the gray. So I got about, I don't know, 3/4 of the pile is gray and 1/4 of it's olive. Not sure if you can see that, but you can mix it just by pinching it together and mixing it like this. Even better way to do it, when I typically am getting low on my mixed blend, and then I'll just play around with it. I'll look at the color, and actually this one's still kind of gray. I would put more olive in this. But what I'm doing when I mix these up is, this is the way to do it with a coffee grinder. If you take this dub, have you ever used these guys? You take this dubbing and throw it in here and just give it just like one quick blast with the coffee grinder, and it really mixes it well. So it's a great way to mix up a bunch of dubbing, which is what I've done in this pack here, but this pack's getting kind of low. But this is a mixed blend that I've made up. And you can put crystal flash in there. You can put anything you want in there. So I'm going to use this, which is kind of a mix of those olives and gray dubbings mixed together. And just going to dub a little dubbing noodle. And then start wrapping that up. And you can see how the bead has started to shoot up the hook. You got to keep an eye on that and catch it before you get up to the bead, or it can cause problems for you. All right, just a little bit more. With me so far? So I got the whole body dubbed in. Now here's my rib. And if you got a rotary vise, it's real easy. I just hold this at like a 45 degrees and just go like that, right? Actually, I want to put a little bit more, a few more ribs in there, right? And that is pretty much it for that. So clip that, that's locked in. Now the wing case. Hopefully I have one of these. So this is what I use for the wing case. It's a bunch of Flashaboo olive pearl. See that? that's the color that I think works really well. I think this is the color Ray used. And what you do is you take about 10 strands of that and you super glue them together. So then you've got a hunk that you can work with. And it was previously, longer than this. I've tied a bunch of flies with this. It's just laying on my bench. So tie this in. I'm just going to do a really loose wrap and then another loose wrap, a little bit, couple loose wraps. And I'm just going to pull this back so that I've got it right where I want it. I don't have to clip anything off. See that? So it's right where I want it. Now I'm just locking it in.
And you said up to 10 individual.
Yeah, so yep,
yeah.
for like a size 12, I'll use like probably 10 strands. For a 14, you can use 10 or 8. In a 16, you
Wow,
might
okay.
use 8 or 6.
Wow. What thickness is it again?
I've been using 2.
You don't have to use as much. I'll tell you the one thing about this stuff though. Hang on a minute.
You
Very
usually-
flashy.
It breaks off on
Yeah.
fish's mouths, and so this all I'm going to do is just dub a thorax here.
So it keeps your fly useful longer.
It does.
12.
Yep. So I did a loose wrap on this, then I'm pulling up really hard, do a couple tight wraps on it. Now it's in there, it's not going anywhere. Coming close. I usually on this guy here, I hardly ever use head cement or anything like that, except for my Pertagons. But for these, because this stuff is easily pulls out, it gets caught on fish's teeth, I'll put a little bit like that. That's just Sally Hansen hard as nails, I think. And then one whip finish and done. Yeah, but to get back to your point, John, so I've got 10 strands, and what'll happen is the fish will catch these in his teeth, and they'll start to see how that's up in the air now like that.
Right. Yep.
And you'll get, after you get a few fish, there'll be like 3 of these hanging up, and I think that slows, you don't get as many hits when they're up, but then I just come through with scissors, clip it off, and I still got a big
Yeah.
chunk, and it's like still like a brand new hair there until it gets really torn up. And then once it's really torn up, I'll put it in my box. I'll rebuild these too. I'll take them back home and rebuild them.
You ever thought of putting a drop of UV cure on there and hitting it? And
I've played around a little bit with that. I initially tried like Sally Hansen, and I don't like the hardness. I think they drop it when they feel that hardness. And then the other thing you do is this is a 22 cleaner.
Yeah.
So you just
Yep.
you can just get some of the fibers pulled out and makes it look a little buggier. See that? That one's ready to fish. Killer. That's a Hendrickson. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, so this is my go-to pattern. I catch more fish on this pattern than any other pattern I have. It's once the Hendricksons start this size 14, even sometimes size 12. Sometimes they like the bigger ones for some reason, but this is a good match for the Hendrickson hatch. And I'll use that 14 for Hendrickson, typically size 12 for a March Brown, and 16 for a sulfur. So pretty much this nymph can be used for just about any mayfly, right, throughout the entire year. So, and this is a pattern I use all year long. It doesn't always work really well all year long, but from like April, May, June, it's usually a killer pattern. So
Cool.
so okay, so that's one. Next thing I was going to do is a Pertagon, I guess. So again,
Oh, here, you have a question.
sure, go ahead.
What's your preferred size on that one? What do you generally go to? Or does it depend on the level of the season? Like early is this and then later is this?
It depends on the season.
Uh-huh.
So, April 15th or April 10th, when I know the Hendricksons are going to be getting active, I'm going to have a 15 or I'm sorry, 14. And if that doesn't work, I might try a 12, see if that works. But usually 14 is the pattern there's the size for a Hendrickson, right?
Okay.
A little bit later, the March Browns will start to come out around here. And then I'll use like a 12 or a 10 when I know the March Browns are supposed to be around. You don't even always see the March Browns. So I just know early May, especially mid-May, even late May. I know they're around, and I know fish are looking for them because they're a big nymph.
Yeah.
And so they like, that's actually a really good big fish fly, is that, a bigger hare's here for March browns. And then the 16 for sulfur. So, and, around here, you never know what they're taking, because we don't always see hatches like on the Cohocton and the Jenny, especially in the morning, right? So, but those bugs are always around, and usually one of those sizes. If I'm not getting them on one size in a few minutes, I'm usually switching to try something else out. That's not really 16.
So early smaller and then later on slightly bigger.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
If I was going to go out right now, I might even try really small.
Yeah, like 18s.
Yeah, exactly. Because blue wing olives are around, right?
So if it's late April, you throw 14 and you're not getting anything, do you change size or do you change out the fly?
Both. I would change size first, because I have a lot of confidence in the hare's ear for Hendrickson's, and I know that's the hatch in April on Kettle Creek, on Cohocton, on Cayuta. So I know that fly works really well. So if the 14's not working, I'm gonna try a 16 or a 12, see if that works. If that doesn't work,
All right.
try something else.
Once in a while, you get a black caddis coming off the same time period,
Mm-hmm.
and your Henderson flies don't work. So,
Yeah, I haven't encountered that.
okay.
He's
Bob,
always, when it comes to
I did
nymphing,
once.
that time of the year, at least nymphing, I'm yeah, maybe you're right. I believe you. So
Hey, Bob.
yeah.
So I also fish the olive hare's ear primarily, a lot of confidence in that. And there's the standard hare's ear. Do you carry that as well? And what do you think it is about olive that makes it special?
This is the only hare's ear I carry, and I carry it in 12, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And but usually 14, 16, and 12 are the sizes. And actually, a lot of times they take the 12, even though the bug's like a 14. They, for some reason, they really like that big size. I don't use the older hare's ear with the turkey biot wing case. I just don't. This has always been very effective. So
What do you think? I carry them both, but I really only fish the olive, which is kind of dumb.
So I think the go ahead.
No, but so what do you think it is about the olive that gives it pizzazz?
I think it's the color of the dubbing, and I think the wing case actually is a big turn on for the fish too.
I agree.
Really
I have a lot of confidence in that the olive pearl.
Yeah, and I'm looking around for substitutes to that Flashaboo, because it's so fragile and you end up retying. But I've actually had some luck with some stuff. I don't have it here on my, there's like you can buy like this type of Mylar, obviously not this color, this is red, but they sell this in a pearl and it's really thick. This is one of the things I'm going to play around with this year. Right, it's almost the same thickness as the wing case I had with 10 strands. All right. Okay, next fly. You ready? So the next one is going to be a Pertagon. And for that, I'm going to use this UTC 70 light olive. Same thing. Put down a base. Good. This actually I should have showed you this first. Have you guys used these much? This is basically the pattern.
Yes.
And Devin Olson, I remember when I first I saw this fly in like 2017 at Edison, and Devin Olson tied it, and it was one of his flies, and he's like, "This is a killer." And I just looked at this thing and was like, "You gotta be kidding me! It doesn't look like anything, right?" And so I came home. This is basically his pattern, and I, tied some up. This is a killer pattern. Catch a lot of fish on this one as well. So
Bob, I didn't think you did Euro nymphing.
I don't. I don't.
So is that a point fly or is that a?
This is a point. These are all point flies that I'm tying. These are all tungsten. I mean, you could tie them with brass too. You could do the same thing, but I'm using this as a point fly.
So what size hook and bead do you have there?
So these size that I use for this is the size 16, 46, 40. I kill at all times of the year with that size. This is a 14, the package, but it's a size 16 is the one that I use, and it's the Rip Lips. This is Rip Lips 7/64 silver bead.
Yeah.
But you can use all the bigger beads if you want. I know Kirk's fiddle around with bigger beads, but oh yeah, should have showed you. So this is a fish that I took with this fly.
There you go.
Size 16 Pertagon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, bright sunny day, crystal clear water, deep pool. 23 inches. So big fish don't take these little size 16 flies. And I made 2 casts into the pool. The first cast I saw a big flash and I knew there was a big fish. And the second cast he took it, and then I was just praying, can I land him?
Wow.
So then for the tail, I'm using Coq de Leon, and that's the stuff here. Coq de Leon is, as I understand it, is a specially bred chicken from Spain that gives you these long, beautiful hairs that are great for tails, and they're very popular with the Euro nymph crowd.
So what would be a reasonable substitute for those of us who
Pheasant tail,
pheasant tail, feather, barbs?
yeah, like two or three maybe.
Uh-huh.
You can see, and the other thing with these, they'll tell you use like 3 or 4 of these strands, and I'm not sure whether this makes. I'm not sure that the fish even sees that this has a tail on it, because that's like right there. That's like 6 of these, right? And usually they say just use 3 or 4. And then
Can I add, like to John's question, the Coq de Leon is really stiff. So almost like a dry fly hackle stiff.
it is.
So like a pheasant tail isn't nearly as stiff, and whether that means anything or not, I don't know. I think it's more of a hydraulic effect, I think.
I mean, I've never used the tail on any Pertagons, and
Yeah.
they do
No,
get bit.
well, no, I get it. And in the Euro nymphers, they love this CDO.
I mean,
Yep.
it's got a French name, so that makes it cool.
That's right.
Yeah, it's actually Spanish.
It's Spanish is right. So this is the quill I'm going to use. It's a hand strip quill. Yeah, it's so easy I'm not going to strip my own quills. It's just so easy to buy them. And actually this color green works really well. Natural works well. I think I've used like golden olive. I haven't found a color that really hasn't worked, but green and the natural color work very well. And then what I've got here, I've got a couple of these sitting in a bowl of water. You want to soak these before you use them. And so here's the quill, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip off just the tip. You want to tie these in so that the black stripe is down. All right, so just catch that. I want it all the way. Oh, I screwed up too, didn't I? I forgot a step. I was talking. So on this one, I like to put a little flash at the back. This is actually, the pattern is called a Polygon. So I'm going to put that same material that I used for the ribbing on the last fly. Tie that in. See that? So I've got it tied in. Hopefully you guys see this. And I'm just going to take 2 wraps. 1, 2, maybe 3 wraps. Just enough to get a little flash back there. Now I got to get this back up here. All right. So I've got a little flash back at the back, hopefully tied in. Now I'm going to come in for with my quill. Tie that down, come back to where the flash was. Oh man, I thought I broke it. Now I'll take hackle pliers. You see what I'm doing here? And then just wrap it slowly so that you get this good effect, right? Actually,
so you're segmenting the wraps.
yeah, exactly. I forgot another thing I want to do. Another thing you can do if you want is you can build this up a little bit. If you really want to get fancy, you can spin this counterclockwise to flatten it out. And then you really fills in, still pretty ropey.
So you're trying to build a taper, or you want it to be pretty uniform?
But just building a little bit of a taper because I put so much stuff at the back.
Yeah, you want to even it out.
I didn't do a good job on this one. Can't talk at the same time. But you get the idea. Now, Devin Olson will tell you that, oh man, it's breaking. I grab another one. Devin Olson, he doesn't, when I've seen him tie, he doesn't care about getting it body shape perfect or anything. He just lays it down, and his whole motto is thin to win, is what they say in the competition. And the thinner you make this, the faster it's going to get down. So again, black stripe down. I'm having problems with this one.
When you trim that quill, are you looking for anything particular, like where you cut it?
So it's a little thinner up at the top. So I've tried to get 2 flies out of 1 quill, and you can do it, but they don't come out as the top one doesn't come out. The better stuff is at the bottom where it's a little thicker. You get a better segmentation, right? That guy's locked in. That's pretty much. So now a quick whip finish. All right, just break that off. Didn't break where I wanted it. And now I'm going to put a hot spot. This is the hot spot I'm going to use. This is UTC 70 fluorescent orange. All right. And just going to come in and lock that in. And I like these to be fairly thin. I don't like a huge, wide hot spot. So I'm just going to tie that in. Maybe 1 whip finish, and maybe a little bit thick, a little thicker than that. And that's it. Oh, it isn't it, actually. Then the last part is black nail polish for the wing case. And that doesn't, oh, you know what? Yeah, actually do this first. This is my old stuff. But this is just cheap Walmart black nail polish for the wing case. I don't want to get too much on there. But you can see there's a little bit of a black spot there, right? So what I would do if I'm tying these is I'll tie a bunch, put the black nail polish on, and just let them sit and dry. So I've got one sitting here that I did that a couple of days ago. And that one's ready for the last step. And it looks a lot better since I'm not trying to talk when I made this one. But then I'm just gonna, with this one, I'm gonna come in and cover it with Solarez Bone Dry. And so I found another good tip on YouTube, watching a guy tie these, and he uses these little these are makeup applicators. For $5, you can get about 500 of these things. And these applicators that come with all of the UV cure material, they're just these huge tips. So all I do is just take a little bit of this on this little tiny applicator. And then it's real easy to just paint this. So it's going to cover up that quill body. It's going to cover up the orange. It's going to really make that orange pop and the black pop too. And everything's just covered. And then I just hit it with UV light. Watch your eyes there.
So that applicator, can you use it more than once, Bob?
Yeah, you can get a couple, especially if you're just tying a bunch of flies, you can use it because it stays wet.
All right. Just don't get it near the curing light, huh?
Yeah, I've got like 4 of them here. I don't know how many flies I've tied, but I've tied a lot. And like I said, if you guys want some, I can give you some. If I come to the next meeting, I've got like, it literally must have like, I think it was $5 on Amazon. I must have no doubt 500 of these things. I'll never use them.
Can you use Hanson's on it if you want?
Yeah, you can do that. You could use clear nail polish.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Try, if you don't have this, try that. I think this looks a little better, but
You have to rotate it, right? If you put nail polish or epoxy or something on it.
yeah, maybe, probably. If you put this little applicator, you might not have to because you can get on there pretty thin.
Right.
But this is a killer pattern.
Yep.
I don't use this so much in, during hare's ear territory, like April, May. But if things are slow, I'll throw this on. This is one of the first flies I'll throw on, but I use this all year long. I think it's a great blue wing olive imitation. It's got the segmentation. I don't know what they take it for, but man, they take it lots of times. So that's another one. We're doing on time. Okay, good. What next? Crawling on. Okay, I got one. I can find what I did with those hooks. I got it. There's one of them.
So start of the season, like April, you're putting a hare's ear on the bottom. What are you running on the top?
Another hare's ear.
Different size or just in the brass bead?
It could be, well, it's brass bead for sure. Because two tungstens will pull my indicator under. And it could be the different size. So if it's slow, I could put 2 of them on that are size 14. But a lot of times if the fish are really hitting hard, like if I'm catching a lot of fish, I don't really need them to be hitting both flies, but I will often run 2 of the same size. It just depends. If they're only hitting a point fly and I'm catching a lot of fish, I'm happy, right? So, all right, here's another one. This is a similar type of Pertagon, but this is called an inverted bead. This is a bead that, unlike the slotted bead, you can't use a barbed hook. You have to use a barbless hook to get this hook through this bead, because this bead has a hole right through the center of it.
Sorry, what kind of hook was that?
It's called an inverted bead. Let me see, where do I have that? Yeah, right here. So tactical fly fishing. This is Devin Olson's shop. They sell these. They're basically called inverting tungsten beads.
Yeah.
And the good thing, what's special about these is you can get a lot more. You can get a lot of weight for a bead that looks smaller. So if you put a slotted tungsten bead with the same amount of weight that's on this one, it would be a bigger bead. Follow me, because part of the weight is going around the bottom of the hook here.
So it's off center, so it drops.
Yeah, exactly. So the way you tie these in, and I like these for small. I haven't used these a lot, but I like them for smaller, like size 18 blue and olive and stuff like that. And this has been a pattern that's been.
So what's the hook number and
Oh yeah.
what's the size
Thanks.
of the bead?
So this is is this what this is? Phasna. This is a Phasna 520 number 16. But you could use Hannock makes good, Hannock competition. I think it's at 540, Kirk. Is that what that is? A very popular competition nymph hook.
Yeah, I don't know my Hannock. I thought the 540 was a jig hook, but
could be. So just gonna take a look.
But you could use like a Tiemco hook would be a 2487, for example.
Yeah. 2487 would work. Or you couldn't use a 2487 because it's barbed.
Oh, it won't take a barbed hook, Bob?
Will not take a barbed hook.
Even what if you were to compress the barb? Would it get?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Good to know.
So what size bead is that, weight wise or diameter wise, or?
This is a 2.5 silver.
2.5 millimeter. Okay. Yep.
Yep. So this was a really simple fly. I've had some luck with it. I actually with the wrong color. I'll just use this color. I don't like this color. I want something darker.
Do you always take wraps in front of the bead?
No, only for this bead.
Only for this one.
Yep. Just to help
Just
put it in
lock
place.
in.
Yeah, while the super glue's drying.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So same thing here. Cockle-de-Leon tail. Yeah, just a few fibers. Now you could rib this if you want. You could tie in like a small UTC wire and rib it up. In fact, do I have any here? Nothing that I like the color of. Let me see this one. See now. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, this works. But you could tie this. So I've tied them just with this thread, the olive thread, and the bead like this, and a little bit smaller size than this, and I've done pretty well catching fish on just this pattern. The only thing I'll come back and do is again coat it with the solar resin. I don't know if this is a little thick of wire, I think, but I'll see what it looks like. Yeah, not too bad. Just try to helicopter that off, hopefully. There we go. And then whip finish. break that off. Solar is thin. Way thick. The good stuff about that solar is if you just take your finger, you can get the excess off there. Yeah, this isn't coming out as pretty as I like, but you get the idea. I would have used the thinner wire, I think, if I was gonna try to rib this. But again, I've done pretty well with this fly without the ribbing. Just with olive thread. You know, it's a small bluing olive size. So that's another one. So inverted beads, if you want to try them out, I've been fiddling. I haven't used them a lot, but I've used them and they work. So it's another option.
And is that something you would use like a 5X tippet on, or would you go 6X?
I haven't used it with 5X. Like you probably could go 6X if you want. If I've got 5X on and I can get it through the eye of the hook, I'm probably going to go with 5X.
You're gonna use it, yeah. And
But
you think it's enough weight to sink it?
I do, especially if you got another fly above it, bringing some more weight down.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it gets it down.
Bob, would that be
What
good in
next?
Pennsylvania someplace or not?
I've used it on Kettle Creek with good luck.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, I lost a really nice brown on that fly,
Yeah.
and wished I had a barb. Wished I had a barb on it. Had them hooked for a little.
Hey, Bob, I missed the name of that.
Name of the fly.
Yeah,
Sorry, the name. It doesn't really. Oh, it's just a thread Frenchie, basically. That's what they call it.
the thread Frenchie.
Yep.
So you might want to explain a little bit more if people don't know about these inverting beads and why you want to have the.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for that. So the inverting bead has a couple. So when it inverts, it's going to, where's my little line there? It's going to flip the hook over so that the hook point rides up like that. What do I do with my little, there we go. So as this is coming down the stream, well, theoretically what's supposed to be is supposed to look like this. And so the hook point will ride up. You'll get fewer snags as a result because this hook it inverts the hook. And so the, you're going to snag up less. And the other thing that happens when the fish bites it, you get a lot of hook sets right in the top of the mouth, which is a great place to hook them. It's like a lot of cartilage there. So it holds them very well. Anything else, Kirk, on that? Anything to add?
No, I think it's my experience is the jig hooks. I've not tried the inverting hooks, but are way less likely to snag on the bottom than a standard hook.
Agreed.
And I'm excited to try the inverting hooks, but both of them do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I think they do. I'm not entirely sold on them, whether they're better than slotted beads. I mean, the theory sounds like the thing I like about it sounds good is you can get a lot more weight on a fly that doesn't look like it has the big huge bead. And I like the fact I like having a lot of weight on a size 18 hook because I want it to get down, and it's tough to get those hooks down, right? So
Well, and you're getting more weight on the hook without closing the hook gap. That's part of it, right?
yep.
A regular bead is equally distributed on both sides of the shank, so you're reducing the gap a little bit.
Yep. So my next flight, I want to show you guys Spencer Higgins SOS. Have you guys used this?
No.
No.
So the
Looks awesome.
the pattern is actually black pheasant tail, black thread, silver wire, and the rest of it is similar to this. But I tied these up about, I don't know when I tied these up. This is one of these things I was like fiddling around, and I tied these up and I used purple thread because I had watched the video when one of these guys from Umco was saying purple is like the next hot color. So I was like, I'm going to try these with the SOS. I threw it in my box and sat in my box forever. And it must have been like October. I was out on a stream. You notice I didn't name the stream. But I was out on a stream and put my hair scissors on. That didn't work. Went through a couple sizes, nothing. I did the Pertagon was the next choice, which usually those, if I'm not catching fish on, then something's wrong. And then I was looking through my box and I was like, I've never thrown this guy on. And I started pounding him. So I use this fly a lot in the fall. And I can't remember if it was that day or another day I was out, but another day I was out and caught several fish. One was slightly over 20 and the other two were in the 20-inch range. So I had a great day. And I've caught rainbows. I don't have a lot of data on this, but the data I have so far has been really good. So don't know if it'll hold up, but the few trips I've taken, it was doing really well. And it's supposed to be a Beta imitation, which I don't know why he ties it all in black if it's a Beta imitation. I guess they are fairly dark, but so for this one,
Mary kind of fly.
Yep. So for this one, UTC purple 70 is the thread. And he actually uses a curved shanked hook too, which I don't. I just tied it on this because I was fiddling around. And I've been tying them like this. So
What size were you having success on?
16.
16.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a 16 or a 14 I have in there, but size 16 is the size I was having success on.
Okay. And do you know what size bead? Is that a
7/64 rip lips.
for the
Yep.
16? Yep.
So again, CDL tail, Cock de Leon. And somewhere here, I can see it without these other glasses. Everything just blurs together down there. It's very fine silver wire. And then just going to build up a body. A little bit, not too much, I don't care. Just for the abdomen. And then just wrap that up.
So just a thread body, no dubbing or anything.
Nope, just thread body. It is pretty easy to tie.
Yeah.
And then I actually think one of the things that really triggers is this bright red wing case. And for that, you just get this back on here. Using Vivus Holo Tinsel. This is the 11 millimeter. It's large, I guess. This is red. Okay. Just tie it in like you're doing any kind of nymph hairs or whatever. And then for this one, I'm using Ice Dub Peacock Black for the thorax. And then, oh, not sure if this is the right color, but this is what I have. I think I was using, so this is Crystal Flash. I think I've used, I didn't have it up here. I think I've got it like a purple color, and I've also have a root beer color. And I've used them both, and they both seem to work very well. And let me see if I can pull off a few of these. So I'm going to tie in some here, tying them along because I don't care. So I'm going to hold those back. I got my legs on both sides, like 3 or 4 strands on each side. Take a couple wraps around the red tinsel. Cut that off without cutting those bad boys. Now I want to cut these about the shank length. And you can just see it leaves a lot of flash up there. And then I'll probably, actually I could have used a little bigger thorax, I think. But I'm going to come in here anyways. And I think I was putting a hotspot on this too. No, man, what is this? It's all right. A little messy, but it's been a good pattern so far. I've heard other people say good things about it too. And like I said, if you want, I think in my those patterns I was coming in, put a little hot spot on it.
What was this called?
This is Higa's SOS.
Higa's SOS.
Spencer Higa is a guide, I think, out west.
It's
And
interesting that the color scheme is very similar to a traditional soft tackle called the red tag, which is just black with a piece of red sticking out the back.
yeah,
Looks
another
very
thing,
buggy.
yeah, it looks very buggy, and the flash I think really gets it. It looks very flashy in the water too. I think this.
like
I think the crystal flash plus the red, plus I think the purple. Oh, the other thing I should have mentioned, I didn't do it quite the way. Usually, the purple before I do the thorax, I usually coat that with the same stuff, the UV Cure, Solar Res Thin. Forgot to do that. I've done it on a bunch of flies with and without, and I think they both work. I just seem to like it that way better. Another trick you can do too, I don't know if you got, and I really like using hot spots. I like this fluorescent orange. And I think it's good the way it is. But if you take some of the, and it's really tough to come in here and try to coat this because you get it all over all these fibers, which I don't want to do. But if you come in and just put some on the thread like that and take a couple wraps, it will pretty much distribute around. You can see it's still wet like that. And then do like 1 or 2 whip finishes, and still like there's enough of it there that it still gets around, I think. And I think this just makes it pop a little bit more, the orange thread. I do anyways. I might be wrong. But it probably locks it in a little bit better too. But that's it. Higa's SOS.
Don,
right.
I noticed that you're using that Solar Res UV Cure. Kirk also used it in his demo as well. I've noted that also a lot of other pro tires are using that. Are there certain properties that you like out of that compared to other products? And can you talk about that a little bit?
So I haven't used many products. I've used Tactical has a material that I've used. I think there was another material I used. This is it's called sorry, this is bone dry. Solar Res Thin. Is it the same as bone dry? This is Solar Res bone dry thin.
Yeah, no,
And
that's the
it's the same thing, right?
yeah. Well, Solar Res has a number of UV, but go ahead and talk about the bone dry.
And the only thing I noticed compared to the others, you can put it on very thin. especially with these little applicators, man, I can paint that thing on. Sometimes I put 2 coats on. So, you agree, Kirk?
Yeah. So that Solar Res is expensive, or the bone dry is like $18 a bottle. But you can make it really thin, and bone dry doesn't, when it cures, it cures really nice, and it's not tacky. Some of the other Solar Res, like the thin and thick, they'll be just a little tacky. But bone dry, I really like that.
I do too. I love it. You can put it on really thin and it gives it a nice sheen and still covers it up really well.
It's not
Oh.
greasy.
No,
After cured. Some of the other products, you know, you cure them and they're still say tacky, but they're greasy. They emanate
should we do a pheasant tail real
crud.
quick? Didn't do a pheasant tail, did I? So let's do that. So this is a pheasant tail. It's my good feather. Yeah, it's a better one, I guess. Just the center tail from a pheasant is what you really want with these really long fibers. And I'm gonna take these. I'm gonna take about, this is the same hook, by the way, 16. So we'll tie this one in the 16. I'll pull out about, I don't know, 8 fibers, pull them 90 degrees, and I'm gonna clip them. And if I hold them like that, where I just clipped them, they're nice and even way back at the tail. So I just walk that back to where I want to put my tail. And I should have put thread on first, shouldn't I? That would have been good. All right, so I got that. All right, now I got my tail again. Didn't lose it. Put that about where I want it. It's where I want it, so I'm gonna lock it in. Try to get that little tied in a little bit behind the hook shank. And I'll do copper ribbing here. This is copper ultra wire brassy. I've used silver too. I don't know that it matters. Copper looks nice, I think. Oh, I shouldn't have clipped that off, but oh well. Could have just used the pheasant tail that I had tied in too, but wasn't thinking. So I haven't done pheasant tails in a while. So now I got to tie it back in. So I'll grab another chunk of pheasant tail. And then when I've got a strand of pheasant tail, I'm going to twist them, right? So they make a kind of like a dubbing rope. And just wrap that up like that, tie off. And she's locked in. And then with the ribbing, gonna counter wrap in the opposite direction that I wrap the pheasant. This, by the way, is another great pattern, especially for Hendricksons. I love using this for Hendricksons. I think it's a better match than the hare's ear, at least by my eyes. I think they both work really well. But then, all right, so for the wing case, I'm going to use pheasant tail again. I'm going to use about, if I can get like 10 fibers. It's about right. Same thing, I cut them 90 degrees and I'm going to stroke them back so that they're all the same length. And I'm going to measure these to be about the length of the shank. See that? And that's where I'm going to tie it in, because they'll be the wing case and the legs. That's way too short. Oh, I should have, I got a bead, so I got to go a bit longer, I think. Try a little more like that. And for the thorax, I like this ice dub peacock. I also like ice dub pheasant tail. I also like ice dub peacock black. I think they all work really well. And I never use, when I'm tying nymphs, I never use real peacock. I know some people like to. I just like this stuff better. Did I do something wrong here? I don't know. So clip this off. And this is going to be the wing case and the legs. Hopefully, this is the tricky part, is trying to get half legs on one side. And then just take wraps in the front. And then the same thing. If you want to put a hot spot there, you can. I always like to fill in that little gap in front and back of the bead. And I don't mind that it looks so messy because I think it looks really buggy. I didn't intend it to look like that, but I'll definitely fish it like that. And that's it. Pheasant tail.
Very nice.
Bob, what was on there? What'd you just put on there on the end?
The last thing was some more of this ice dub pheasant tail.
Okay. Cool.
All I did was, a lot of times when you get done tying these bead heads, there's like a little gap. To me, it just doesn't look natural. So I like to fill in that gap, that little divot behind the head. I like to just fill it in with some stuff.
So Bob, if you wanted to make a flashback version of that,
Yeah, I think that's killer too.
what would you not do the pheasant tail wing case and substitute the flash, or would you do?
Yeah, so you could do the
Close
flashback, put that down before you do the pheasant tail wing case, and then fold them both over one at a time. You could do that, or you could.
Okay.
I think actually what I would do is I'd use partridge legs. You know that trick?
Yeah, and do them. Yeah, so you do the wing case in flash,
Yeah.
and you tie in the partridge on the sides
Yep.
after. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Exactly.
Do you think the
Yeah.
legs
I
matter?
What's that?
Do you think they really matter, the legs?
That's a good question. I don't use them once I get to I never use them at like 18s. I don't put any legs on. 16s, I'll probably think about it. 14s, I will. Actually, these legs are a little long too. I wouldn't have made them that long. But actually, Joe at Curry, he has pretty really long legs on his. He likes kind of what his looks like. But I don't know if it matters much or not. To be honest with you, I think having a good drift matters more than whether the fly has legs on it.
Yeah, it's all, for me, it's all about the bugginess. So the bugginess and the drift and getting in front of them.
I like the bugginess. I never disliked bugginess. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
And a curry's pretty good, you know. You could probably bank on what he has to say, right?
Absolutely. Yep, he knows what he's doing. All right. Let me see, what else was I gonna do? If I dared. Let me see if I have the stuff for this. So I can show you my Hendrickson emerger. How about that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, please.
When's the last time you fished it?
CDC pattern.
I fished it last year.
Okay.
Wasn't I standing right next to you, or was that the year before?
There was one, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I showed you my special secret Hendrickson emerger, and I think you caught nothing on it.
Yeah. I was doing really well until you gave me that.
Exactly the
You don't
point.
have to take
I
that,
actually,
John.
I liked your emerger on your video. All right, I gotta remember how I tie this thing. Give me a second here. Gotta get back in practice. Oh, I know. That's what I'm looking for. So let me see. I got brown thread. Perfect. So this is brown 80 uni. And just gonna lay down a little bit of the thread base.
Some of it's the fly, some of it's the fisherman.
Yep, this is true.
All right, hook
Uh,
details there, buddy.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you. 1130, size 14. Which this is the size I use for Hendrickson.
So the 1130 is like a standard wire.
I think so, yeah. I think it's standard.
Okay.
I think it isn't it a light wire.
It
Oh,
may
it's
be.
light?
It might
So
be light
it's
wire.
2487 equivalent.
It's probably, yeah, I think it's lighter than a 2487. I think it is light wire. This is what Henry Ramsey uses for all his emergers, so it's probably a light wire so that it floats a little better. But this is brown Antron, or this is actually Darlon, but similar to Antron. I'm sure you can't buy this anymore. This is very old. So I'm just going to take a little bit for the trailing shuck.
Those people that know Dick Paul have ended up with some Darlon from Dick Paul.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was a real favorite, and
Darlon.
he would give that out. It's like an Antron wannabe.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yep. So a little shuck on the end.
Little shuck on the end. Trying to clean this
Yep.
up a little bit.
I use Zelon for that.
Yeah, I'm sure that works just the same.
Similar kind of thing.
Perfect. There's my copper wire. I'm going to use Pheasant Tail for the back. Just about probably three strands, 4 strands. And I'm just going to clip this off a little bit. Tie those in. Tie in copper wire, the same copper wire I used before. And then, actually, I want to get this up a little bit more. Far enough.
Are you wrapping that pheasant tail the way you did the pheasant tail, or are you just rolling that flat?
I did not really twist it as a rope, and if you could, I didn't. In fact, it's all torn up, so I got to go back.
Yeah.
Try that
Find
again.
when you twist your pheasant tail into a rope, you get more stability out of it, or do you do it for the thickness?
I think it makes it more. I think it gives a little bit more strength
Mhm.
when you're wrapping it. Maybe that's why I didn't do that with this. Maybe that's why that broke. I don't know. Maybe I'll twist them up a little bit. Get some of this thread off. All right. So a little twist this time. Don't like the way that thread's jumping up there. Good enough, far enough. So I recovered, I don't know, 2/3 of the hook, which is more than enough because the thorax is going to take up the rest. And then counter wrap the wire. Bobbin is not tight. All right, so I got that in there. Next step is CDC feathers. So I have the pleasure of knowing a few duck hunters that keep me supplied with CDC feathers. CDC is a feather that comes right behind the, there's a gland right on the back of the duck by his butt. And that's what he uses to preen his feathers. And it's got oils on there that help the duck basically float. So what I do is I take, I'm looking for feathers that are about like this, right? And you could peel off each one of these little feathers if you want and doing that way. But I like just finding 3 or 4 feathers and lining them up so that the tips are pretty much lined. Try to get them aligned. And then you sort of twist them a little bit together until it's kind of like a parachute post a little bit. And you're just tying it in kind of like it's a elk-hair caddis almost, right? I don't know if you guys remember what the wings of a Henriksen look like, but this is a direct match, man.
Is that brown? It looks brown on my screen.
This is just natural CDC right off a duck.
Oh, natural. Okay. Is it really more
It
gray?
is. It's kind of like a dark gray.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think. Yeah, you're right. Henriksen's probably like brown, but
I mean, in the natural, the ones I think of it as more gray.
it is gray.
But
Yeah.
it looks brown on the screen to me. So
Okay.
that's why I'm asking.
Maybe if I get close,
So natural. Okay.
that looks really brown.
No, now that you zoomed in, you could really see it. It looks more gray.
Yeah, they're a gray. I mean, the contrast between the pheasant tail body it's not the same color. At least
Right.
from here, it's not.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree though. With John, it looked brown, but now that TC zoomed in, it's gray.
Yep. And then the last part to this fly is some kind of Henriksen dubbing, like a fine dubbing. This is hairline. What is this? Seal brown.
Yeah.
So it's like a light brown. So you can use dark Henriksen dubbing. You can use the pink dubbing, but just a really fine dubbing noodle, and take a bunch behind to stand this up, and just build up a little bit of a thorax. And the thing I like about this fly is I don't do anything else. I don't put hackle on it. Henry Ramsey, I think this is like similar to a pattern Henry Ramsey ties, but he puts hackle on it. And I think I tied a bunch of those. And then I figured I'm just going to try without the hackle. And this is a killer. It had a 50 fish day on kettle one day on these guys. And I've had luck on the Cohocton. So they're just real easy to tie. And that's it.
So Bob, with the copper wire on there, do they float or do you fish them
No, it floats.
subsurface or so?
It floats. This will stay right on the surface.
Okay, and do you use a desiccant between fish to keep the CDC?
Usually, so that is a problem with CDC. It'll start to sink because it'll get wet, and it'll start to get fish slime on it. but usually, it floats really, and this is actually a little bit light on CDC. I probably should use another feather. I like to really use a lot of CDC, but certainly the first few casts, it's gonna be like sitting right up on top, or it'll look like a mayfly that's been blown over, like on its wing.
Yeah.
So it'll do that a lot, but they'll float, and occasionally they'll start to sink. And if they sink, I'll just take 10 practice casts and dry it off. Or if it's really bad, I'll bring it in, rinse it off, dry it on my shirt, and throw it out again.
So Bob, I got a question on that. What size is that pattern?
This is a size 14 on this hook.
Okay. So just to let you know, on the Delaware, similar pattern, 18 and 20s. And the hook eye is more straight, not like bent like that.
Yeah.
And it's a thread body, but we also use, I think it's called high and dry. And high and dry is great because you can just take the wetted fly, de-slime it, and dump it in the high and dry, and then pull it out and whip it a couple times, and it'll go out there and float like a cork.
Really?
Yeah, it's great with CDC, high and dry.
Yeah, I should use more CDC. One more feather on this would have been better. By the way, I watched the Delaware River guides tying flies. And this I came up on. I mean, there's not much to say. I came up with this pattern on my own. It's pretty simple. And I was too lazy to put the hackle on it, Henry Ramsey. But the Delaware River guides on one of those clubs over there, he was tying, and he tied the exact same fly. In fact, that's where he said, once you line up the tips, you twist them together, kind of make a little rope. I was like, oh, that's a neat trick. He's basically tying the same fly. I do think now they look at this copper wire is a little thick. It looks freaking huge on this thing. So maybe a little thinner wire would make it lighter too. And I'm not even sure you need the wire.
Yeah, so like I said, the ones we used were 18s and 16s with thread body, no ribbing at all.
Really?
The CDC wing set up pretty much straight
Really?
off, and straight eye, not a bent eye. And some of the guys down there, some of the guys I talked to, I fished last summer quite a few times. They don't like the bent eye. I think that's 1130 Daiichi, and they like a straight eye is a slightly better when they get the hookups.
Yeah, especially on
Really?
The bent eye tends
Interesting.
to pull backwards. I think that it's at least that's what they think.
Mm-hmm.
I had great success with that, and especially around. It's funny down there. You don't really think. It taught me a lot about dry fly fishing, and you wade into the middle of the stream and you fish to the bank and cover and different things. And it was amazing to me, the fish that were just there that you didn't think were in 3 inches of water, and they were there. So
Yeah.
it was kind of funny.
The fish factory.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. You guys want more? Getting tired?
More.
I want to see your second and third boxes.
That's all this old stuff.
Show us the fly that you at the end of this you're gonna say, I kind of regret showing them that. Show us that fly.
There's been 4 of those.
You want the secret stuff, the stuff that you never show anybody. Including me.
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, these are good flies. I think if you got a decent pattern, like the hare's ear, I think if you got a waltz worm or a sexy waltz worm, which is pretty much very similar patterns, or Joe Curry's pattern, I think if it's in the ballpark of the right color, I think the drift is more important. I really do. If you get a good drift, that's a lot of the game. All right, so this is I should do hooks here first. 2487. We've been talking so much about 2487s. I figure we better tie something with a 2487. Size 12.
Right.
Very simple pattern here. This is a 1/8 brass bead, because that's just what I happen to have here. So probably would be better to be tungsten, but I'm going to tie it with brass anyways, because this is the way I always used to tie this pattern. This is a very simple pattern that was an absolute killer for the Cuda Creek boys. Let me see here. So let me get. I'll go with this. So this is UTC 70. This is a light olive. I don't think it matters. We're gonna cover up the thread anyways. Oh man, what did I do there? All right.
What size
Okay.
Hook details, man.
2487.
size?
Tiemco 2487. What do I do with it now?
That's
Size 12.
12?
Yep.
Okay. Biggie.
You could use a 16, or I'm sorry, 14 or 16 too. But I kill with this on a size 12, man. I used to anyways. This is a pattern I used to use a lot.
UTC 70 is equivalent to what in uni thread?
A dot.
A dot, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't like to go bigger than that for nymphs. I think it makes your dubbing get really thick.
Yeah, I agree. I've gone to more thin and thin thread. for most
So I want to tie this way back by the bend there. So this is the, again, pearl tinsel. Same stuff I was ribbing with before I use this stuff. You can see that it's on a bobbin because I use it so much. I use this to rib everything. And this is life cycle dubbing caddis green. And this color is good. All right, and you can see this bag's been used a lot. This color by itself is good. If you take the life cycle caddis, I think it's yellow, and mix a little bit of that in here, it's the same material, but in yellow. I know that doesn't seem to make sense because this is imitating a green caddis. But I think that the way I started with this pattern is I bought some dubbing from Cabela's a long time ago, and it was this color green, but it always had little streaks of yellow in it. And this closest match is this life cycle caddis, and they have both the yellow and the green. And I think if you do mix the little bit of the yellow in, it actually makes this pattern look, it works better. I'm not sure that it looks better. This is really simple, just roll it up the. Have you seen these caddis on the crawling on the rocks? They have like the little four-sided, you know what I mean? Four-sided cone like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what these guys are.
It's more in Pennsylvania though, right?
I don't know if they still have them on Cuda. They used to have them on Cuda Creek.
I don't know.
They may not. I used to kill with this fly on Cuda Creek anymore, but I just thought I'd throw it out because I know you guys fish Cuda a lot, and maybe you can try it.
Fish a black caddis or a white caddis on Cuda.
Can't see anything with these glasses. Okay. And then Arizona synthetic peacock. So put a little bit of a head up there. And that's about it.
Yep. Okay.
You could put if you want to make it a soft tackle with some partridge, that works, I think, even better. But this works great too. And it's really easy tie. For those times when you run into those green caddis, if they're in there.
Now, are you fishing that on your nymph setup
So
or not?
I used to fish this before tungsten beads were invented. So, and I haven't really fished it that much lately. I just haven't. It's just one of these patterns that I used to fish. I used to hammer fish on Cuda Creek on this pattern, but now I go to Cuda Creek. I haven't tried it lately, no. But I know other guys I've given this pattern to, and they said it's worked well on the Jenny and other streams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Good. Very simple pattern. I like simple patterns. All right, last one I have. This is okay for lake run steelies or browns. This is tan yarn. It's like a light tan. Wouldn't you say, TC?
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you guys want any of this, I'll never, ever in my lifetime go through this stuff. But
Take some cards.
I think my wife has some of that.
what's that? Yeah, you take some. You can take some for sure. But this is 2488 heavy for steelhead fly for sucker spawn is what I'm going to tie. And this is a great pattern. Certainly by December, January, this anywhere through the springtime, because the eggs bleach out and they're basically about that color. And this is a great pattern for stream browns. Do I have my? Okay, perfect. I'm going to use. This is fluorescent chartreuse UTC 280. This is a very heavy thread, and it's a very bright chartreuse. I like the chartreuse. I think it makes a difference. It's like a contrast to the fly. Same thing. Just going to lay down a.
Bob, did you say what size? That looks like a 12.
It is a 12.
Yeah,
Thanks.
cool.
Thanks for reminding me. 2488, which is a heavy hook, which is what you want to use for steelhead so they don't get bent out. If you use the regular size metal hooks, they'll get bent out. I'm getting messy here. This is my bodkin. So normally I would take my bodkin, but I can't find it. But what you want to do is you've got this layer of, so you've got the basically the rope of the yarn, and you want to peel off there's like 4 fibers that are twisted together. You want to peel them off and just sort of get them sort of separated apart. And when you separate them apart, they'll fray a little bit. That's okay, right? So I've got a bunch that are frayed, probably enough to tie a fly, so I'm going to do it. And actually, you can, if you spend more time, you can really get these things taken apart without tearing them all to pieces. There we go. That's a better way to do it. Once you do that, you can see I've got the 4 separate little pieces there. I'm going to tie those in at the back. And I don't care if I've got a couple little pieces hanging off. What do I do with my bodkin? I've got a mess here now. I'm going to try to do it with this. Normally I would use the bodkin, but I'll try to use a pair of scissors. And what you do is you take your bodkin and just make a little loop, hold it down. You see that? So I'm holding it down at the back there. I'm going to take a wrap over. Take another, these are just loops, wraps over. Now I'm taking it tight, I'm pulling it very tight. Take a wrap, right? And then I'm going to go right next to it. Almost right on top. I'm going to get this as close as I can to my fingers. Now they're getting two loose wraps. Pull it down. And then one more time. There was one day on Elk Creek years ago. It was New Year's Eve, and it was the first time I had really a lot of luck with this color. I had tied up a bunch of these, and I had a bunch of different colors in my box, and they weren't working. And I think I had like, I don't know, 8 or 10 of these. I just started killing them. And I ended up killing the steelies on this one. And I went through every one of my flies by the end of the day. But yeah, ever since it's been in my box, it's a good color to have. And that's it.
So no added weight.
Nope, I don't. You could. I've just started playing around with adding weight, but no, I don't. On these, I'm usually running a split shot, 10 inches away.
Right.
Bouncing the split.
Are you sight fishing in shallower?
I'm using an indicator, basically the same technique. But but usually on the steelhead streams, I am bouncing it more than, it's not just straight up and down.
Right, yeah. Okay.
But that's it. And this will, as you catch fish and this gets used, this will get more frayed. And you can see that it just keeps, and I think it gets caught in their teeth. It's a deadly one, right?
So is it more the yarn material or the color that's, because there's a lot of different variations of this with different materials, you know?
There is. This is one of the 2 colors that I really like for sucker spawn. I've tried a bunch of other different colors that work okay, but this one works really well. And there's a pink color I like.
Is that just white? I mean,
No, this is it's like a tan color, really.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe cream, maybe cream.
Just looks like a bleached out egg.
I can bring some into the club meetings. This is enough for probably 100 people.
At least.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
Interesting.
that's all I had, guys.
Cool. Well,
Outstanding, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Outstanding.
That was great.
fantastic.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Great.
I'm going
And I can show
Very
you all
good.
those flies, and I never got to any of the secret ones. So
Ah,
If
we
anybody
suspected
wants,
as much.
I'll be
Yeah.
making the digitally enhanced blow-ups of Bob's fly box available.
Oh, thank you.
luckily, I sent you the one from 3 years
Thank
ago.
you.
Nice job,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, thank
thank
you,
you, guys.
Bob.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Bob.
Yeah.
Just like,
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, TT.
Thanks, TC, and thanks, Matt, for organizing.
Yeah.
Thanks. This was
Yeah,
fun.
thanks, Matt.
Thanks for taking the
Yeah.
time, Bob. I really appreciate it.
if you ever get a chance to fly fish with any of these guys that do these master classes, it's an experience. You should take the opportunity